Would you consider yourself pro-life or pro-choice? You guys consider yourself pro-life or pro-choice? Do you consider yourself pro-life or pro-choice? Do you consider yourself pro-life or pro-choice? Do you consider yourself pro-life or pro-choice? Would you consider yourself pro-life or pro-choice?
I grew up as an only child. My parents were together until I was 11, and then they separated and divorced. And my mom got remarried and my dad got remarried.
My mom is a police officer, and she worked night shifts, 4 to 3 in the morning. So for most of my life, I'd come home from work, or I'd come home from school, and I'd kind of be there by myself till Mom got home. And so that's kind of how I got used to being. I don't like a whole lot of people being in the house or anything like that. I'm used to living alone, basically.
Well, my dad was a preacher until I've heard lots of different things, but I'm pretty sure that the real one is that they were doing things that he didn't agree with. Like he wanted to raise money for a certain thing and they were putting money into other, disagreements. So he left the church. Mom and Dad, they got along as good as I knew when I was younger. But as we got older, not really. They fought a lot, and my sister and my father did not get along very well. And there was a whole lot of family tension just with that. I have a sister and a brother, both older. We're all 4 years apart. My parents are divorced. They divorced actually when I was 13, which is the reason I was moved to Vegas. I didn't move when scheduled. They did the separation thing, and then my mom decided that it would be best for us to move to Vegas. And by that point, my brother and sister were already of age and going to college and stuff. So my mom had us all packed up, and the day that we're supposed to leave for Vegas, my dad shows up and talks me into not leaving. So my mom said, all right, well, I have to go. So she left. So then I stayed with my dad for a couple months and just missed my mom really bad. And Dad, I think, may have been overwhelmed. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I hear. And so I was sent to Vegas and stayed out there till she was done with Vegas and moved me back.
Jeremy, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. Yourselves?
Doing really, really good. Hey, Jeremy, we're just taking a survey today, and I want to ask you a quick question. In your opinion, when does life actually begin? Good. Hey, Mike, we're doing a quick survey here. In your opinion, when does life actually begin? When does life begin, and when is a person entitled to civil rights as a person? Okay, we have Princess Leia and Superwoman here. Hi. And we just have a couple of quick questions for you. Having a great time?
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Everybody's getting lots of pictures with you?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Quick question for you. In your opinion, when does life actually begin, and when is a person entitled to civil rights under the Constitution? Surveying people on the street, we got a quick question for you. Sure. In your opinion, when does life actually begin? In your opinion, when does life begin? And the question is, in your opinion, when does life begin?
It was really weird. I basically always lived out of a suitcase. I had a room at my mom's house and a room at my dad's house that was mine and had my stuff in it, but everything that was important to me was always in a suitcase because it was silly to unpack and repack and unpack, and so it was just, for a while, it was just suitcase.
I didn't know my dad until I was 10. I found out a couple of years ago that my mom left my dad in part because he wanted her to have an abortion. I think I found out that my mom left him because he wanted an abortion. It might have been 2 years ago. I don't think I heard it from my mom. My mom doesn't really talk to me much about her past. I hear it from various other family members. And my dad back then was, he was heavy into drugs and drinking and partying, things like that. And I know he cheated on my mom a few times. But I found out basically the whole story from a different family member, and it was just where she was living in Sanford, which is by Raleigh, North Carolina, and my great-grandmother lives in Michigan, and she had gone to Michigan to see my great-grandmother, and my dad went up there to visit, or no, he went up there to bring my mom back, and the first thing that Nanny, my great-grandmother, I call her Nanny, did when my mom walked through the door was she wanted to see her belly. She wanted to see the baby. And my dad, I don't call him Dad, I call him Ronnie because that's his name, said, well, don't get too attached to it because she's getting an abortion.
I lived with my mother and grandmother. She had went to be, my grandmother lives out there, which is why my mom went there. When I get there, Mom was at work all the time, and it turned out that she had already had another boyfriend. And so we were all three. He had another apartment that he was renting for my grandmother, but he was staying with us a lot. And so being a 13-year-old and just leaving my dad and coming to this place, and there's this new guy trying to tell me what to do, it didn't really work out too great. His job was gambling, pretty much. He knew whenever the slot machines were going to go and hit, and so he would make money doing that, and my mom was just doing that, so they would be out all night. So I spent my evenings tucked into watching Nick at Night and going to school. And
Pro-choice.
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 Pro-choice, yeah.
I would definitely consider myself to be pro-choice.
Pro-choice.
Pro-choice, I guess. I don't really like the terminology of pro-life.
I think that depends on the situation.
Well, I'm both. I'm pro-choice, but I'm pro-life. You know.
Pro-life.
And
I'm sorry, pro-choice.
let's start over.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I consider myself pro-life and pro-choice.
It's a hard question to answer because I'm pro-choice. I think that it's better for a fetus to be aborted rather than to go into a life of misery and to maybe either neither have a family or have an abusive family that just neglects them.
Consider yourself pro-life or pro-choice?
Well, I'm actually both. I'm a person who believes that life should be given a choice, but everyone has a choice. Life is life. Love is love.
My mom got married basically immediately after the divorce was finalized, and it was, I don't know how to describe it. I wasn't upset, but it just felt like a whole new chapter or something. Like, this is really happening. My parents are really split up, you know. I moved out to California when I was 15, right before I turned 16. And I stayed there with my mom for a month. And then she came back home, and I stayed with my acting manager at the time and her 2 children and another boy that was acting. So it was basically a bunch of teenagers and her in a house. And my mom trusted her, but honestly I don't think she should have because she never really watched us, and it was just kind of chaos. I did a lot of stupid things, and I don't know, no supervision, and so I stayed there until I was 17. right before I turned 18, so it was almost exactly 2 years. The reason I came back actually was because I got arrested and went to juvenile detention out there, and so then my stepdad actually came and got me and brought me back home. The guy that I got pregnant with actually is my boyfriend now, again. He grew up 2 houses down from me in my neighborhood, and I never knew him at all. And when I was 14, maybe 15, I was at this teen club, and he just came up to me and asked if I wanted to dance. And it was just like, it was just like my heart just stopped. He was just gorgeous, and I was like young, and it was awesome. And we dated for a little while. And then I broke up with him just because I found somebody else, and it was just me being a dumb teenage girl.
And I always had to ask, my mom being a cop, she was really, really strict. So it was like, when are you going to be home? You know, who are you going with? And it was like, my mom never talked to me. We never talked. It was always an interrogation. Always. And we had a horrible relationship. Absolutely horrible. And it's better now that I don't live there and I see her once every 2 weeks. And I had just gotten, it was a new car. It wasn't new, but it was new to me, and that's all that matters. And it was a 2002 Mitsubishi Eclipse. And I was so proud of that car, so proud. And it was my first night in that car, and I was driving around with my friends in the back of it, and we were all like, hooting and hollering because I got my new car, and I was so excited. And we stopped to get gas at this gas station, and there, working at the gas station, was this really, really pretty cute guy. I was feeling pretty daring because I got my new car, so I went in there and started flirting with him. Seemed like he was kind of interested, but I didn't think I was going to go anywhere. I was just flirting with him because I felt like doing something. I was like in that one of those wild and crazy moods. So I was out with the girls, From then on, that happened to be the gas station where I got all my gas because it was cheap. And he just happened to be there. And from that first night, I just started talking to him and things like that. And he invited me to a Halloween party. So I ended up going, and I should have never went. I should have turned around and left because he was kind of a loser, which admittedly that's what I was attracted to. The guys who were bad boys and weren't going anywhere in life and were getting involved with drugs and things like that. And even though I've never been involved in anything like that, there was a certain danger that I liked about the guys who were. I think it was that because I grew up in such a strict household, I really wanted to kind of get out and branch out, I guess. I don't know. He wasn't even a nice guy. He was just always so mean. He was like, at some points, whenever he wasn't around his friends, and when it was just us, he was really nice. And I think if we had just stayed friends, we could have been friends. But it never stayed that way between us. And I found out that he was still seeing his ex-girlfriend on the side of me. Because, we spent every day together. Every day. In February, I found out I was pregnant. And it was like kicking me when I was low, kicking me when I was down. I've had the pregnancy scare before, but I never really thought I was. So whenever that little plus sign actually did come up, it was like...
It was very nerve-wracking. I was a little country girl, didn't know much about the world, but Asheville, and when I got out there, I just made friends, and my mom and I finally moved out of my grandmother's house because my grandmother and her weren't getting along, and her boyfriend and I got an apartment. And he's from another country. He's from Brazil, her husband now. And we constantly fought. I actually busted his kneecap one evening because he was mouthing off, and I got ill and took my foot and kicked him. And that made for a rough beginning of our relationship in the apartment there. So I got in trouble a lot at school. I was constantly skipping school, and there it's different than skipping school here. Like, you can skip school here and walk around downtown, and nobody's going to question that. If you're there and you're walking around in the cop seat and you look underage, they're going to stop you and ask for your ID and put you in the car and bring you back to school. I'm going to be honest with you that I have had a whole lot go on, and so my memory kind of shakes me a little bit, so I have to think sometimes. But I was 19 years old. I moved out of the house from my mom's house when I was 17, and I was actually lived with a boyfriend that only lasted like 2 months and moved away. And had just moved in with my best friend, and was dating this guy, and it had only been, I had to have been at least a month or two or so, not very long at all. And we had actually only had sex once, and then we hadn't done it again really, and noticed that I had missed my period and took a pregnancy test, and I was pregnant.
Would you consider yourself pro-life or pro-choice?
Pro-life.
Pro-life.
Yeah.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, you want to watch me disappear? Is that $20 all you have?
So what's the questions you gotta
Well, right now it is.
What's the questions you gotta ask me?
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
Would you consider yourself pro-life or pro-choice?
I am pro-life.
I'm pro-life.
And
I want to live. I want everyone else to live.
He was actually one of the first people I called when I came back, and I just met up with him, and we started dating again. And then he actually went to jail for something he had done, and so he was in jail for about a month or 2 months, and we were writing letters every day. I actually never told him until a couple weeks ago about the pregnancy, so he never knew. So, and he was really, really upset when he found out. I was 18. It was in December of '03, so like 5.5 years. I felt really guilty for not telling my boyfriend. Well, I guess I was just really confused. I think that in my mind I knew I was making a lot of mistakes. I honestly think I was too embarrassed or too proud or something to admit that I was messing up, and I just kind of kept putting one foot in front of the other. When I first thought that I was pregnant, it had been like a week since I had missed my period. It had been like a week, and I thought, no, this doesn't happen. It happens all the time, but it never happens to you. And I took a pregnancy test, and it was negative. It was so soon, I guess. But it didn't come, and I thought, I know my body better than this, so I took another one and it was positive. And I think I took 2 more and they were all positive, and I was like, no. I was really scared, honestly. I didn't want to tell my parents. I never told my parents, actually.
Because I was in a relationship with someone who I hated just about as much as I liked. But I was so low at that point in time. I was so lonely that I let him treat me the way he treated me. And I knew he was using me the entire time. I totally knew he was using me. But I was addicted to him. I was so addicted to this boy. Well, he was there. I walked out the door and I told him. And he's like, it's okay, we'll get it fixed. That's his words exactly. We'll get it fixed, Oh man, I just felt so bad. It was like, those few weeks were so hard. I felt so bad. Realizing just how badly I had screwed up, and realizing how stupid I was, and knowing that I'm smarter than that, and knowing that I had really, really screwed up, and also knowing that I didn't know what I was going to do. I was so low at that point in time, I didn't want to do anything but die. By the time I started telling people, it was over. He had just disappeared in the middle of the night. He hadn't called me. He just disappeared. It had already been decided that, I was going to have an abortion. But at the same time, it hadn't been. I wasn't really sure in the back of my mind that I wanted to. And I was really open about it. I was really, really open about it with everyone except my direct family. I didn't tell anyone in my family, but I don't tell anyone in my family anything anyway.
Went over to my boyfriend's house and talked to him about it and told him I just, walked up and said, we need to talk, and we went out on the porch, and I kind of just abruptly was like, and there you have it, I'm pregnant. And he just kind of sat there and said, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, I don't know. I've always wanted to have kids, always wanted it. But in the situation that we were in and the person that he was definitely not somebody that I wanted to raise my child. And I wasn't quite in the right frame of mind at all to raise a child. We both partied a lot, drank, did drugs, and so we made the agreement to go to the abortion clinic and get that checked out and just kind of feeling the options,
From conception to birth, at what stage in the development of the fetus do you think it should have rights like the rest of us, like rights and protections?
I don't know. I feel like it should always be a woman's choice, and I think that women are educated enough about their bodies to be able to make that call for themselves. I don't think any sort of science can ever tell us when life actually begins, but I definitely am not a advocate of late-term abortion unless it's, within certain realms. But I do think women are educated enough about their bodies to be able to make their own decisions about things like that and what's right for them. So.
Anyway, if you can't feed and clothe and love and support a baby, you really should consider not having it, because there are enough people in this world that don't have enough love, that are eating up our air and water and resources.
I'm not really sure. Definitely it's towards the later ends of a pregnancy where a fetus is viable, so probably about a viability.
Well, I think you need to ask what time do the people who have the child deserve the rights. So, I mean, that's my opinion. I honestly don't know about what you asked.
I'm not really clear on that. I'm undecided on that point. I think that early in term is definitely not a baby yet, but I don't know exactly how far things go.
I think it's during the third trimester, somewhere in there. The baby does more than just move. The baby actually seems to react and have more than just a common reaction.
I feel like a woman has every right to her own body, and she deserves the right to choose what she wants to do with her body.
Probably after this child has attained some rite of passage in his community.
Once it has a right to vote, then it's a human being. It's an animal.
Oh, okay.
18 years old, I guess.
Went in, and in my case, I actually, when they did the ultrasound, they said that the baby probably wasn't going to live anyway. So, just a really low heartbeat, and I was 7 weeks along. So they give you options. You can either take a pill, or you can have a DNC, which is the kind of vacuum thing, but that's really expensive. And being a 19-year-old and a server and not having any money, and my boyfriend actually did not have a job, so that kind of made it difficult. So I went with the pills, and I went and talked to my boyfriend, and we had agreed that this is what we wanted to do, and this was the best thing to do. And I woke up that morning, and you have to get up at like 6:30 or 7, which I'm not a morning person anyway. And so I had to get up, and you insert 4 pills. And it was absolutely the most horrible pain that I've ever felt. But both my best friends were there for me, and it's kind of weird because you're just sitting around, losing a child. It's kind of an intense situation, but it was neat to have my friends there anyway. And we watched. They give you pain medication, so once that kicked in, it wasn't so bad. You're just kind of drained. But as the day went on, my boyfriend actually showed up with his friend and just walked in the door like it was nothing and was like, "How you doing?" And I blew up and was like, "I'm losing a baby. How are you? Get out of my house." So, yeah, he wasn't very supportive at all. It was a very rough start for a relationship.
I was desperately trying to tell anyone that I thought would be able to give me a direct answer. I was desperately seeking advice from everyone because I didn't want to have to make the decision. I wanted someone to tell me what I was going to do and that it was going to be okay if I did it this way. And of course, I never got that response. I always got these mixed responses from people. And everyone said, whenever I told them I was thinking about getting an abortion, they're like, well, I wish you wouldn't, and I'm against it, but I think that you should. Which makes no sense at all. It's like, well, okay, you just gave me 2 answers in one. And my best friend at the time, she told me, she's like, I won't be against you if you did, I would understand if you did, but I really wish that you wouldn't. And at one point I decided that I wasn't, that I was just going to keep it. And she was so excited. And she's like, "I'm taking you to the mall and we're going to buy you some maternity clothes." And I'm like, so we went to the mall and I couldn't go into the store. I couldn't go into the maternity store. I couldn't walk in there. I felt physically ill looking at it. And it just put me in this really just horrible mood, and I just wanted to leave. And I just wanted to drive and just leave everyone and be alone and never speak to anyone again. I just wanted to curl up in a hole and die and never have to think about it again or anyone else. People don't realize that that's how you feel whenever it happens. People don't realize that it's that hard, that you feel just that. Even though I had all these people that knew about it, I still felt completely, utterly alone. I didn't have anyone at all. And first thing they did was they gave us an ultrasound and told us how far along that we were and everything like that. And it was like the size of a kidney bean. And I did a lot of research before I went through this. I did a lot of research. And it was nothing more than an embryo at that point. It's not considered a baby until second trimester. It's not considered a baby until second trimester. And it's not a baby. And that's what everyone says, that as soon as the egg is fertilized, you have a baby on your hands. Well, it's not. It's a fertilized egg. You don't have a baby, you have a fertilized egg. And that's what I want people to understand, is if you do your research, you know that if you got to start somewhere. And so after the ultrasound, it was a waiting game. Most of the day was a waiting game. You were just kind of sitting around thinking about it and mulling things over. And they had music playing. The entire time they had music going, which is really, it was a nice effect to have music going. And I remember hearing a few songs and thinking, hey, I like this song. While I was going, this is a really good song. Whenever I get home, I'm going to download it. They had this little picture of butterflies on the ceiling, this little poster, butterflies. And then they gave us they put us on stretchers finally at the end of the day. They put us on stretchers and hooked us up to IV that gave us pain medication through the IV. And they had us on stretchers lined up in a row, and it was only 3 or 4 people at a time. That's why, we were waiting, and they had very nice little rooms with, 2 recliners in there, and it was 2 patients per room, and you'd go and you'd kind of hang out in the recliners, and at least you were comfortable, I guess, while you were waiting. And I remember sitting there with this one girl, and she never spoke a word to me. And honestly, at that time, I was kind of done with joking, and I didn't really want to talk to her either. And they would, come in and, tell us that they were ready. And so we'd put us on the stretcher, and they would have the stretchers lined up against the wall and have us, we had to be hooked up to the IV for a certain amount of time so that we got enough medicine in us, enough pain medication in us. And until it was over and they took the laughing gas off. And then all of a sudden, I was coming down. And it was I just started, bawling, just sobbing hysterically. I went from absolute elation to complete devastation in 3 seconds. And I just remember saying, I don't know why I'm crying. I don't feel sad, but I'm just crying. I can't stop. And they're like, it's the drugs. You'll be okay. And I'm just and they took me back to my little recliner, and the girl there who had already had it done was sitting there. And she was crying too. And they gave us crackers and water. And You had to sit there afterwards for an hour or so. And I remember feeling so tired, just so exhausted. It was like through that whole 6-month period, I had finally been able to rest. After that whole relationship, it was the first time I was able to sit down and breathe. And all I wanted to do was just sleep, because I felt like I hadn't slept at all the entire time.
When I went to Planned Parenthood, they talked to me a little bit. I think that one of the nurses asked me, if I was sure this is what I wanted. I didn't feel like she was trying to tell me not to. I just think she wanted me to think about it. But that they really didn't seem surprised. I'm sure they see it a lot. They basically just gave me a recommendation. I didn't, I wasn't examined or anything there. I think they gave me some papers with some information on it. I was 6 weeks when I went in there. I went in and I talked to the doctor. She actually did an ultrasound, and I saw the little speck, that was in there. And she talked to me about it, about how I was going to feel, and that it probably wouldn't feel very good, but that it would be easy, it would just come out. And she just gave me a pill. I think it might have been 2 pills, maybe just 1. But it was just a nondescript white pill in a little pack. And so I went home and I took it, and I remember laying there throughout the day and throughout the night, and I had all the blinds closed and it was pitch black in there, and it just hurt so bad. My stomach, maybe I have a low pain tolerance, but it hurt really bad. It just felt like my insides were being shredded almost. And I kept going to the bathroom, and blood was coming out, and blood was coming out. And one time I went to the bathroom, and this big, huge blood clot came out. And I don't know if that was it or not, but I remember looking and wondering if that was the little tiny baby or fetus. So that was, I remember when I was looking at it in the toilet, sitting there, it was like I wasn't in my body. It was just like, it was almost like one of those moments where I was like, this is real, what did I do, kind of thing. I don't remember. I'm going to guess maybe 10 hours, maybe. Because it was daytime, and then it was really late at night when I finally went to sleep and didn't really hurt that much. And then the next morning it was like nothing. I was feeling conflicted. I think that a lot of me was feeling kind of entitled, like, this is my body. It's not fair that all this stuff is happening to me. And another part of me was thinking about what my mom always says about how babies that are aborted, she says that they're up in heaven, like, crying for revenge, or I don't remember how she put it, for justice or something, like crying out. And she doesn't know. I've never told her, or my dad or anything, but I just kept thinking about, like, is that real? You know, am I going to hell? Is it really like that, you know? So I did feel relieved that I didn't have to deal with being pregnant and having a baby, and because I just didn't think I could handle that in my life. But I also felt like someday I might have to pay for it.
All of at the moment that the egg and the sperm meet, that's when that fetus has a soul.
At conception.
Moment of conception.
I know it's okay. I totally know.
I believe life begins at conception. Yes.
Okay.
Well, I think it's what it says in the Bible about we're formed. God forms us from the foundation of the world, and that He knows who we are. And I can't remember the exact place in the Bible that it says that in Psalm somewhere, but.
It's difficult for me to respond to because I always pretty much felt it's a woman's right to make decisions in regard to her own body, and I still believe that's the case. But after seeing that phenomenal exhibit that was brought over from Japan, where they took all the corpses and cut them up, it's an exhibit rotated around the country. They had a sidebar on that, which was a baby exhibit, and I was given an opportunity to actually see the fetuses at 2 weeks, 3 weeks, fingernails, features, all kinds of stuff. And I haven't really shaken that out at this point. It was so impactful.
I've been thinking a lot about this lately. That's why I decided to answer the question. And I'm kind of beginning to go along the lines with Buddhism, as well as a lot of neurological research, that the moment that the pineal gland ascends and the moment that dimethyltryptamine begins to activate in the brain, it's very difficult to argue that after about 28 days, that's 28 days in gestation, it's a human being and entitled to all the rights of a human being.
I guess, like at conception, when there's a heartbeat, when there's brain activity, when organs and muscles are functioning as a mammal, as something that we would consider has life.
I'm Catholic, and I believe that life begins at conception. At first, yes, but then after looking more into my faith, I realized that was my personal belief also. I believe everyone has a right to life beginning at conception.
Life begins at conception. The second that you have relations with another man, and that's the second life is formed, and you should have rights then and there. You know, you may not be able to say them yourselves, but you know, your mother that's carrying you should have enough compassion to know that you are a life and that you can do good in this world. No, I'm not a really religious person. I've never really been into church. My mom is Catholic, but you know, I carry some values from there, but I just believe that life is at the moment of conception, and there's no other way to see that.
And then, in your opinion, at what point is the unborn fetus entitled to the same human rights and protections as the rest of us? Conception, 3 months, 6 months, or birth?
At the beginning.
Conception?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just into fetuses living and everyone living. You know, God only takes life. Yeah. And when you take your last breath, it's not up to a human to take it. That's what I think.
I think life begins. It's so contradicting. I guess I would think that life would begin as soon as you had a heartbeat or, you know, an egg thing going on. To me, it was like losing a part, you know, a person. I never get to see them or hold them or anything like that, but I mean, they were still something. So I guess I'd go with that. But, you know, I mean, I understand the concept of people saying that you're murdering a life. But I don't know. I just think that
While I was still trying to decide, I mean, I was on the computer going through week by week by week the growth of a baby. And I really don't think that it's an organism and it's trying to live and it's trying to survive, but that's kind of like anything. You know, any type of living organism at the very beginning of life is going to try to strive to survive because that's all it knows. It's just trying to, get the necessities it needs to grow so it can live. It doesn't have feelings yet. It hasn't matured into feelings, and it doesn't have like thought, and it doesn't have relationships, and it doesn't have love or anything like that. It's just an organism that's growing and working on growing to live. And I think that once it hits a certain age, once its brain is developed, then I think it probably starts, starts feeling and understanding things. But I don't, there at the very beginning, like I said before, it's a fertilized egg. You have to start somewhere. And then it, goes on to an organism, a zygote. And it doesn't turn into an actual being until after certain things have developed. And those things have to develop first. The brain has to actually turn into a brain before it can think. It can't start working until it's actually in existence. So that's a tough question.
I believe that life begins at conception. I think that once it's something, then it's something. And it's immediately starts growing and forming. And I know it's easy to look at it. It was easier for me to look at it and say it's just a little dot, But the dot is like the beginning. It's like a seed to a plant. A seed is not dead. It's not nothing. It's the beginning of a tree or, anything. So I feel like it makes it easier when it doesn't look like a child, but I think it is a child. I think there's a soul there or something,
I'm pro-life. And I want to live. I want everyone else to live.
I know that before you have a child, even before I had the child that I had planned and wanted, I was scared. And it is scary. It's scary to know that you have to take care of someone else for 18 years or something or more. But I would want whoever was going through something like this to really think about it and to not think about what other people are going to think about you, but just to think about how you're going to think about yourself. Because you can ignore other people, but you can't ignore your own thoughts for the rest of your life. That would be my advice.